You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. A news and rumors mailbag coming your way after Deebo Samuel has requested a trade out of San Francisco. And it has become contentious to the point where he no longer wants to rock a 49ers uniform. So going to take all of your questions about Deebo Samuel requesting this trade and anything else you have for me. Mr. Block Ice 22, $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your donation. Far as those threats Deebo got, I mean, I'm mad that he wants a trade, but grow up, people. Let's see what we can get. It's business at the end of the day. And as of right now, I don't think it's a guarantee that Deebo Samuel doesn't come back to the San Francisco 49ers. Is there any way that they can rectify the situation? And when cooler heads prevail, they can find a way to reach an agreement on a contract extension. I mean, look, Deebo Samuel has said in the past, I love playing for San Francisco. I love the faithful. He has been a model citizen up to this point. He has been an impact player, a special player, an impactful guy in the locker room. So when you lose him from an on-field production standpoint, as well as his influence behind the scenes as a team leader, that's a huge hit. Now, as far as the threats that he got on social media, I'd be hard-pressed to think that led to him requesting a trade. I mean, according to Ian Rappaport, he requested a trade about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So those threats have been made to any player in any era, whether it be social media or up close and personal. The funny thing is, the people who are keyboard thugs and keyboard bullies, they're soft. They ain't about that life. They ain't about that chit-chat. If it comes to them seeing Deebo Samuel in person, they would never do anything. They'd pose for a picture to post on social media to get that clout. Han King Dam with the 99-cent super chat, sending in an angry face. And I understand why a lot of people are angry, why a lot of people are frustrated with this reaching a boiling point to the fact where Deebo Samuel might not ever want to play for the Niners again. It really is crazy, but nothing can be ruled out during what has been an epic, crazy, turnstile type of offseason in the NFL. Donald Thompson with this, not about the money. He even said so himself. And that's according to reports out there. So if that is true, that it's not about the money and that the Niners have wanted to pay him and they have a contract on the table for Deebo Samuel to sign, he just isn't willing to sign it. What led to this point where it became so contentious, where the relationship just had to be broken off altogether, and they couldn't even try to solve the situation? If that is the case, I'm sure there will be some juicy reports and rumors coming out over the next couple of days. That's why you subscribe, because we'll keep you in the know right here on the 49ers Report. Ronnie Baca, who do you think we can get in free agency to replace him? Now, I don't think it's going to be a free agency splash that the Niners are going to make to replace Deebo Samuel. Why is that? Because the best wide receiver out there right now is Odell Beckham Jr., who's coming off back-to-back torn ACLs. Deshaun Jackson, who's old and is a vertical field stretcher, but his route tree is somewhat limited. Cole Beasley, as a free agent target, is more of a slot guy. And Emmanuel Sanders, while he was great for the Niners back a couple years ago during that Super Bowl run, he too is old. What I think could happen is that the Niners target a wide receiver if they get draft picks back in a trade for Deebo. And producer Jeremy Chuggs, if you want to pop up my top 5 wide receiver prospects, we can take a look at those names. And I think there's a benefit of maybe going the draft route over Odell, Deshaun Jackson, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, or a player like Julio Jones, who I don't have on that list because the production has declined and the injuries have increased. Deebo Samuel, whether it's with San Francisco or another team, is going to demand $20 to $30 million per year. If you draft one of these wide receivers and you hit on these picks and you make it right, you're paying these guys a fraction of the price of what you'd pay Deebo, Devontae Adams, or Tyreek Hill. And these wide receivers are really good. And don't come at me with, oh, you can't plug and play these guys. They can't be impact players from day one. What about Justin Jefferson? What about Jamar Chase? They were top 5, top 10 wide receivers in terms of production last year. So yes, you can. Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave are all very good wide receivers. And I have faith in Kyle Shanahan. He'll be able to scheme these players open and utilize them to their strengths like he did last year with Deebo. Should the Niners try and sign or draft a wide receiver? I want to hear from you in the comment section down below. That'll be the pinned comment on this mailbag. Type S for sign or type D for draft. Steven, you think this will haunt us at some point in the future? It'll haunt the Niners if they trade away Deebo Samuel. He continues to have a marvelous career that spans 10 plus years and continues to be one of the best wide receivers in the game. And if the Niners get draft picks back for Deebo, they miss on some of those selections and those wide receivers end up being busts. You know what could also impact the Niners and haunt them is if you trade away Deebo and all of the things that I just talked about happened, and then you can't get Trey Lance a legitimate number one. Can Brandon Ayuk be that? Maybe. He's been working out with Trey Lance throughout this offseason, but that there could reek of disaster. Lucis, this is a sad day for the Bay. We must make sure we get the max amount of capital. I don't want to send them to die, but I'm just saying the Jets got 2 first-rounders, but what do you think? The Jets have number 4 and 10. I think that's a trade, and that's value that you can get back for Deebo. They're desperate to surround their franchise pillar and franchise face, Zach Wilson, coming off a rookie year with a number 1 bona fide wide receiver. There's a level of familiarity and communication there with Robert Saleh and a player like Laken Tomlinson signing with New York in NFL free agency. What has been a somewhat lackluster offseason in terms of storylines for the Niners has certainly been ratcheted it up. Next question coming in from BirdDog379. Would you accept, Jamar Chase for Deebo in a 5th? Yeah, any day, because Jamar Chase is special, but he has that special kinship with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a Super Bowl bound season where they're the AFC champions and Jamar Chase put up crazy numbers in his debut season. They're not going to trade him away for Deebo because I think Jamar Chase might be the better wide receiver than Deebo, and he has that level of familiarity with Joe Burrow. Where does Deebo rank among all wide receivers in the NFL? Let me know on a numerical scale down in the comment section where you think Deebo Samuel ranks among all NFL wide receivers. Draco Pimpin, Chase, I already DM'd you about people, but we love Deebo. This news hurts. They only make things worse for our organization. And is it the fact that Parag is, let's say, very strict in terms of financials? I think that can come into play. And maybe Deebo didn't like how the conversations were going with his contract extension. And maybe Parag was a little bit stingy. But we've seen the Niners pay players before. Fred Warner, George Kittle, Trent Williams. This is not a cheap organization. Again, we need to find out what led Deebo Samuel to have this level of frustration with this organization. Abraham Morales, we need Deebo. We should offer him the money. I agree. I would pay Deebo $20 to $25 million because I think he's one of one. I think he's an incredibly unique talent. I don't think these types of players come along often, and now you might lose them. Ruben Figueroa, $5 super chat. Trade Deebo to Chat Sports for Chase and 2 first-round picks. Look, I might not be the fastest guy. I certainly have some really reliable hands and some big mitts during the NFL Scouting Combine. You know, we had our own Scouting Combine here at Chat Sports. I think my hands came in at 10 1/4 inches, so I can certainly catch the ball. I can throw it. I might not be fast, but I can offer you some passing ability and catching ability and give you some versatile minutes just like Deebo and give you some quality snaps. Nova, by the way, I'm going to drink $5 to that super. Why haven't we traded Jimmy? Then we could have made some cap space and we could have signed Deebo already. Now, yes, that is certainly a point in terms of long-term money, but in terms of this year, Deebo Samuel would probably have played on the final year of his rookie contract worth less than $4 million in base salary. That contract extension would have kicked in after 2022. So by having Garoppolo on the roster this upcoming year, of course it impacts things financially. There's no doubt about that. And it could have freed up some money to sign some free agents, but also in the future, that's when that contract would have kicked in. Who do you think gets traded first? Oh man, I can't believe we're at this point where we're talking about who gets traded first between Deebo and Jimmy G. But you let me know down below. D for Deebo, J for Jimmy. While you're down, going into the comment section, make sure you subscribe to the channel by hitting that red subscribe button. Let's get to 60,000 subs as soon as possible. When news comes out, when breaking news happens, when there's a juicy rumor out there, we have you covered here on the channel. In addition to NFL draft coverage, NFL free agency coverage, year-long free daily videos coming your way 7 days a week here on the channel. That's why you subscribe to the best Niners content here on the internet. Eternal Flame, how can we get 2 firsts for Deebo when Hill didn't even get that? If a team's desperate? Also, Miami did give up a lot for Tyreek Hill. They also had to pay him a lot of money, and I'm not sure Deebo Samuel's going to make $30 million in average annual value. If a team like the New York Jets loves Deebo Samuel, if a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, they have 2 first-round picks as well. They want to surround Devontae Smith with Deebo Samuel to give Jalen Hurts 2 legitimate weapons at wide receiver. That's how you can get 2 first-round picks right there. Sahaj, hopefully I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I apologize. I do like that picture. The Golden State Warriors are balling out. Steph Curry was awesome in game 2. Can we trade Deebo Samuel to the Seahawks for DK Metcalf? Can you imagine that? Flip-flopping those wide receivers? Then we would be box score hunting week in and week out over the next several years, because if the Niners traded Deebo to Seattle for DK Metcalf, they'd sign DK Metcalf to a contract extension. Like, we would be seeing, and we'd be going back revisionist history, classic, to see which player put up bigger levels of production. My guy, What Noodle 187, who will need to step up now that Deebo wants out? Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk would immediately become the number 1 wide receiver unless they sign somebody in free agency, like an Odell Beckham Jr., but I don't envision that happening, or they draft a wide receiver, and you don't want that rookie wide receiver to have the pressure of being that number 1 wide receiver. So Brandon Ayuk would immediately slide into that role. Tavante Calhoun, appreciate this. 49ers report by Chat Sports. 3 picks, 1 first, 2 late rounds, and an offensive lineman or a wideout. So let's just say you make that trade with the New York Jets that I proposed earlier during our live show, right? Let's say number 10, Elijah Vera-Tucker. You get offensive line help, and at number 10, you draft the best available wide receiver on your draft board. I'd take that. And you wouldn't even have to give me a late-round pick. Maybe a 4th-round pick, a mid-round pick that you can get another quality starting caliber player at any position of need. Tavante, I like what you're putting down. Also, if I didn't get to your questions during this mailbag, give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. It's the same handle on both social media platforms. Right when this Deebo Samuel trade request came out there from Jeff Darlington, I said, you know what? Deebo's requested a trade. We're going live. So turn on your notifications here on YouTube, but also my tweet notifications. Therefore, you stay in the know with all things Niners.